Hello everyone, it's Shoster and your boy, Jet Black the One and Only here with another exciting live stream. Give me one moment. So I didn't actually hit the go live button. I was setting up the stream so I could go live later, so this is actually kind of awkward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the description of this video and get all that set up and turn on the lights and everything. Because like I said, I didn't mean to start the stream like immediately. I like put my phone down and my phone was like, so that means we're streaming now, right? Oh, I guess it's going to start up and it's live. So here we go. Yo, Godzilla, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. How's your day today? Do you have any questions for your boy? And do you have any discussion topics you'd like to talk about on the stream? I didn't actually mean to start this stream right now. I just need a few more minutes to get set up. Like I said a moment ago, I put my phone down and my phone just started streaming. So I guess it started now. But I actually need to set a couple things up. I need to edit the description first and do stuff like that. Godzilla said, I have this really cool idea for the reptile race. Don't worry, hopefully we'll be able to do a writing vlog at some point today. I actually have a ton of videos planned for today. So you guys are going to get a lot of new content. I haven't planned a writing vlog for today yet, but I have been working on a lot of characters for the Heart of Heroes multiverse. So if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, we've been working on an extended public domain superhero universe known as Heart of Heroes. So that's what Godzilla and I are currently talking about on the stream. But we soon will be talking about the DC digital first comic that came out today, Swamp Thing New Roots issue 1. I'm going to give a basic summary of the plot. Then I'm going to tell you my favorite part, my least favorite part, and who I'd recommend the comic to. But first, I need to set up the description for this video. I apologize about the slow start to this video. Like I said a moment ago, I didn't mean to start the stream up yet. I actually was planning to start the stream at like 2:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, but as soon as I put the phone down, the stream started. So I was like, ah. So I'm currently dealing with that now. But once everything's set up, I'll be able to start up the stream. How's everybody doing today? I hope everyone's doing well. It's good to see you, Godzilla. Are you having a good weekend so far? Sorry, I'm looking away from the camera. Like I said, I'm currently getting the description stuff out of the way. Stuff that I would have done if the stream didn't start early, before the stream. Do 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 do. I'm thinking about Ned's Declassified for some reason. Um, I'm almost done, guys. Sorry about the wait. Alright, here we go. Let me mute my computer as well so that if I get anything like a Facebook message or a notification or something like that, it won't interfere with the stream. Again, that's something I would have done before the stream started if the stream didn't start itself early. Okay, cool. Luckily, I didn't need to do anything like use the restroom like before the stream. Because that would have sucked. Because then it would be like an even longer time before I could start up. Godzilla said done, and then he said okay. Let's see. So I've now updated the description of this video. Godzilla said so he sent some pictures that he made. Ooh, okay. I'm excited to see those. He posted them on the Amino. I'll definitely check that out. Some of those Heart of Heroes pics that you made. But not right now, because right now we're doing Swamp Thing. So let me pull up the live chat. I'm going to pull that up on YouTube, and then we'll be able to start up this video. I'm sorry that the first 4 minutes of it were set up. I was planning to do that before the stream. But without further ado, let's jump in. So I have the live chat up on my screen. I have my summary right in front of me, so let me start reading the summary. Swamp Thing attacks Sutherland Foods, which is a food plant that develops these special seeds for farmers, but the seeds self-sterilize themselves so that farmers have to constantly buy more seeds, which is kind of a predatory business practice within itself, but it's made even worse because whenever these seeds cross pollinate with other plants, they sterilize those other plants and keep them from being able to produce more offspring. Essentially, this has become such a problem that Sunderland Foods will eventually lead to like the extinction of all like fruits and vegetables, which will lead to like world hunger and famine and eventually like the death of everyone because there'll be like no plants for anybody to eat. Um, so Swamp Thing's trying to stop that. So he attacks the Sunderland's food plant, stealthily taking down two armed guards before battling an entire group of guards head on. Bullets seem to have no effect on Swamp Thing, as he uses his vines to pick up, throw, and restrain the guards. Swamp Thing then causes the plant life around the food plant to overgrow and destroy the plant from the inside out. Swamp Thing then burns the plant to the ground. Sunderland Foods. Oh, I already went over the Sunderland Foods and the seeds and everything. Anyways, moving forward. Swamp Thing leaves behind the tied up guards and travels to a small village in a swamp where he is greeted warmly by the citizens. He takes a moment to play with the kids before walking with a voodoo priestess. The people of the village call him Mr. Swamp, by the way. Swamp Thing says that he's really mad about what Sunderland's Foods is doing to the world and that it's making him become literally toxic. It's making it harder for him to like not kill the people around him. And he's losing his faith in humanity as a whole. And the voodoo priestess tells him that he needs to accept death rather than to fight death, which she means in like a figurative, like metaphorical sense. Because the idea is that if you spend your time like mentally fighting against death, like stressing about people dying, it keeps you from being able to live your life and it makes you closer to death. But when you accept that death is a part of life, it doesn't hold you back and it allows you to like keep moving forward. So Swamp Thing at first is like, well, you're talking a bunch of like voodoo priestess bullshit, and I'm a man of science. I don't really think I can vibe with that. But later he takes a moment to sit by himself in the swamp, and he's like, you know what? I think she's right. I need to try and like accept the fact that people are gonna die. That doesn't mean to stop fighting Sunderland Foods, but it does mean to not let my emotions hold me back from like doing what's right. So he's like, I still shouldn't kill people. I should keep trying to destroy the food plants, but I can't let my emotions get the better of me. So what he does is he literally pushes all his emotions into like a heart, but because Swamp Thing's a big like vegetable monster man, his heart kind of looks like a little beet, like a little vegetable. So he pushes all his negative emotions into his heart and then pulls it out and just like drops it in the swamp. And then he just keeps rolling. So now his faith in humanity is somewhat restored and he's starting to do this like on a regular basis. Like whenever he gets too upset where he thinks he's going to like go past his limits and like kill someone, he's like I got to drop one of these beats. I got to like pull my heart out real quick because if I don't, my feelings will get the better of me and I'll just kill everybody. So he's just doing that as a way to like manage his emotions, which I think is an interesting concept. So Sunderland Foods learns that Swamp Thing has been destroying their food plants and they start getting upset about it. And at first they're like, we need to find a way to kill Swamp Thing. If we don't kill Swamp Thing, he's going to destroy all our plants and is going to ruin our business. Then one of the executives goes, well, hold on a second. What if we don't kill Swamp Thing, but instead we capture him and then create clones of him that we can enslave and turn into like infinitely self-harvesting crops. Like the slaves would grow like fruits and vegetables and stuff from their body and then pick the fruits and vegetables off of their body and then they're like and then we can sell those and it's just infinite supply. So they're like, that would be a good business move, I suppose. But they're like, how on earth would we like capture Swamp Thing, and how are we gonna like make clones of them and stuff? And the executive more or less is like, leave the details to me. Like, don't worry, I'll be able to capture Swamp Thing. Then the story jumps back to Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing is attacking another Sunderland Foods plant. But this time, the guards know that Swamp Thing is coming, and they're armed with flamethrowers. They're like, since Swamp Thing's made of plants, we imagine that if we like hit him with these flamethrowers, he'll like burn to death. So they're ready for Swamp Thing to arrive. Swamp Thing, being one step ahead, creates plant decoys that are essentially like big Swamp Thing clones. And the guards with the flamethrowers, thinking the clones are the real Swamp Thing, start attacking them while Swamp Thing sneaks behind them and starts destroying the plant. So once the guards realize that the real Swamp Thing is behind them, it's already too late, and Swamp Thing destroys a grain silo, which floods the area with grain and restrains all the guards to where they can't really attack Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing then takes the guards' flamethrowers and burns down the plant. So that's another Sunderland plant out of the way. Okay, so the next thing that happens in the story is that Sunderland Foods makes a deal with the voodoo priestess to capture Swamp Thing. The voodoo priestess agrees to this deal because she wants to take Swamp Thing's heart for herself, like literally rip his heart out of his body and eat it because she believes that Swamp Thing is immortal and she thinks that if she eats his heart, that she'll become immortal. So what happens is that Sunderland Foods gives her this like neurotoxin that she can give to Swamp Thing, that simulates the effects of death. So it makes it seem like Swamp Thing has died, and that will allow her to be able to put him in this special containment tank and then transport him to Sunderland Foods. So she injects him with the neurotoxin, which essentially like knocks Swamp Thing out. And then she reaches into his body, grabs his heart, and then takes a bite out of it. But what happens is that Swamp Thing's heart actually contains the neurotoxin. So then she falls into a death like state. And it's revealed later on that Sunderland Foods made that neurotoxin by collecting those beets that Swamp Thing has been pulling out of his chest whenever he gets too angry. So they've been collecting those, and they were like, this has a cool neurotoxin in it. We could use that to beat Swamp Thing, not knowing that they were made by Swamp Thing. And then the voodoo priestess, not knowing that the neurotoxin she injected Swamp Thing with is actually the same neurotoxin that's in his heart, bites into his heart, and it's like, oh shit, now I've been hit with the neurotoxin. So she falls, and it seems like she's dead, but she's not really dead. So Swamp Thing, because he was injected with it first, he recovers before the priestess does. And when he sees the priestess essentially dead, and he sees the containment chamber that was going to be used to transport him to Sunderland Foods, he goes, she must have sacrificed herself to save me. He like thinks that she died trying to rescue him from Sunderland Foods. And it makes him go, you know what? Mankind isn't that bad after all. There are people that you can trust, and there are people who are your friends. And I shouldn't get upset that a few people are like really horrible people who are willing to like essentially destroy the earth just to make money, because not everyone is actually that bad. So he just completely misunderstands the situation, but it teaches him a life lesson and makes him a better person. So they have a funeral for the voodoo priestess who they like bury underground in a coffin because they think she's dead. And at the end of the story, the voodoo priestess, like the neurotoxin wears off, and the voodoo priestess wakes up in a coffin, and she essentially just dies because she was buried alive. And that's Swamp Thing, New Roots Issue 1. Now that I've gone over like the basic plot summary, let me read the live chat and see what Godzilla's been saying. So Godzilla said, also Amino isn't really working for me. Oh, what happened on Amino, Godzilla? Is everything alright? Godzilla said, Mr. Swamp, I'm not feeling so good. Om nom, yummy beet heart, Swamp Thang. Then Godzilla said, so the story is basically trying to say, climate change is bad, right? No. No, that's not what it says. Then Godzilla said, I can't see post. Really? There are multiple sections on the amino, so I would say try and navigate between the different sections of the amino and then see if you can see post that way. Like go to like latest post, and if not, go to like the all section, like do stuff like that and try to see if you can see post. Worst case scenario, Godzilla, you might have to refresh the page or uninstall and reinstall the amino app. Or maybe update the app if there's an update available. I don't know a lot about amino, but those are my recommendations. So try to like refresh the amino, or try to navigate between different amino pages, or try to uninstall and reinstall the amino. Those are my recommendations. I don't have a lot of troubleshooting tips for amino. So I wouldn't say that this story is about climate change being bad. Godzilla said, when I press a post, I don't see anything. So you're saying on the amino, when you click on a post, like nothing appears? Again, I don't have any other real like tips other than the ones that I gave. Because I'm not like an amino like tech support guy. Like I wouldn't know what to say. Godzilla said it shows a screen, but it's like the posts are empty. Like you don't see the post come up. Oh, are you talking about it's I just tried to click a post and it said 500 oops, an application error has occurred. Sorry about that. Something's busted. We have been notified of the incident. Godzilla said 500. Okay, I'm getting that same screen, Godzilla. That seems like an issue with Amino itself. So I imagine that's something Amino is working on. The screen even says Amino has been notified about the incident. So I would just give it some time. Amino will fix itself at some point. But for now, you were asking about what this story is about and what it's trying to say. So this story doesn't really have anything to do with climate change, because you said this moral of the story is that climate change is bad. Not really. So the Swamp Thing story is talking about like the dangers of genetically modified food, more or less, like GMOs. And it's also talking about like the dangers of like greed and capitalism. So Sunderland Foods is developing these seeds, and the seeds are made to where farmers can plant them and grow crops, but then those crops don't actually produce seeds that can make more food. So it's like you could grow like a whole bunch of corn, right? And then after you harvested all your corn, if you tried to use the seeds from those corn crops, it wouldn't grow any more corn. So you'd just get what you got in terms of seeds. Like you've got like 100 corn seeds. You could then make 100 corn stalks, but then those corn stalks couldn't produce any more. So instead of relying on the seeds of the plants you grow, you have to constantly keep buying seeds from Sunderland Foods, which is a business tactic to make it where farmers are dependent on Sunderland Foods to keep growing more crops. So it's kind of like a greedy, like, oh, we can make more money if we make them like this kind of thing. But the problem is that those crops, when they cross pollinate with other crops, those crops become sterilized as well. So let's say I had like Sunderland Food corn, which is sterile, and then I had carrots that I grew the normal way, like non genetically modified plants. The corn and the carrots could cross pollinate, and it makes it where the carrots are sterilized so that once you ran out of carrots, the carrot seeds wouldn't grow any new carrots. And essentially, it's becoming an issue where there are so many Sunderland Foods crops to where they're cross pollinating with everything, and it's going to eventually lead to all the normal crops dying out because they'll all become sterile. And then once they're all eaten or they're all have been like rotted away or whatever, you just don't have any left. And once you run out of all the fruits and vegetables, nobody can eat. So everybody starves and then everybody dies. So Swamp Thing more or less is trying to stop the end of the world at the hands of Sunderland Foods. So it's like a anti like big corporation greed, anti genetically modified food kind of story. That's like more the environmental message of it. And then the moral message of the story is that like humans may do bad things, but that doesn't mean all humans are bad, so you shouldn't lose hope in humanity. Is like the big moral of the story. But I'm glad you asked that. I feel like that was like an important thing to cover. Mystic Monza Motorsport, aka Ace, said, "Hello, Nick. Yo, Ace, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. How's your day today? Do you have any questions for your boy? And do you have any discussion topics you'd like to talk about on the stream?" Right now, we're talking about Swamp Thing New Roots, Issue 1. It is a DC Digital First comic that came out today. I just finished giving a brief summary of the story. Now I'm going to go over my favorite part of the story and my least favorite part of the story, and then after that, I'm going to describe who I would recommend this book to. So, my favorite part of the story, I really enjoyed when Swamp Thing faced off against Sunderland Foods for the second time. I like that the guards this time were expecting Swamp Thing and had equipped weapons that they thought would be more effective against him. I also liked Swamp Thing's strategy to get around the guards by setting up decoys. It kind of reminded me of the old Batman Arkham games where you would walk into one room and you'd surprise all the guards and it would be like a stealth takedown mission thing. But then you'll walk into like the next room after they've been alerted that like Batman's there and they're like, we've added additional defenses and stuff because we knew Batman was here. And then Batman can't as seamlessly take down all the guards. He has to like use a strategy. I like that they did that for the Swamp Thing book. And it actually makes me kind of excited for future Swamp Thing books because I love the idea of Swamp Thing facing off against this enemy that's a big corporation and has a bunch of different resources so they can keep throwing new challenges Swamp Thing's way because they just have money to spare. Like next issue, maybe he's going to fight them again, but this time they know that flamethrowers aren't super effective. Or maybe they're like, flamethrowers might work, but Swamp Thing was able to distract our guards with decoys, so maybe they need like thermal scanners that can identify between the real Swamp Thing and like decoys. Like that could be kind of cool. I just feel like there's a lot of potential for that, and I like the idea of Swamp Thing's enemies slowly stepping up their game, and Swamp Thing having to stay one step ahead in order to like overcome his enemies. So that was my favorite part. I thought that was really cool. And then my least favorite part of the book, the tone of the book was a little weird when Swamp Thing played with the kids in the village. Like the book starts off and it's almost like an action horror hero book, similar to the kind of stuff that we're writing in the Heart of Heroes universe, where it's like monsters versus technology kind of thing. And then for a moment, I was unsure if it was suddenly a kid's book. Like when Swamp Thing goes to the village and they're all like, Mr. Swamp, and he's playing with kids. I was like, what is this? What is, I don't understand what's happening. But that was a very brief moment. And in the end, the book is definitely a superhero book with awesome supernatural elements. So other than that weird like shake up in the tone, I feel like the book overall was pretty good. And now here's my recommendation. Who would I recommend this book to? I would recommend this book to anyone who likes supernatural characters, anyone who's a fan of Swamp Thing stories, anyone who likes horror themes, anyone who enjoys watching guys with guns fight large monsters, and anyone who's into like environmental messages in comics. Which, to be honest, a lot of these DC books that have come out this week have had something to do with like pollution or environmentalism. Like this week's Flash comic had to do with pollution. This week's DC Superhero Girls comic had to do with pollution. And this week's Swamp Thing comic had to do with pollution. And all those comics came out like back to back to back, which is really surprising. But this week has been very big on like environmental messages in DC Comics. But what did you guys think of this comic? Definitely let me know in the comment section below. Don't worry, I'm going to read the live chat messages before I end the stream. I just want to let you guys know that in the description box below, if you guys want to pick up this comic for yourselves, I have an Amazon affiliate link that you guys can click on that not only will allow you to buy the comic on Amazon for $1, it's only $1, but also it helps give back to the channel. If you use that link in particular, we actually get some of the proceeds from your purchase. So it allows you to enjoy this book and it allows you to help out the channel. Now, let me read some of you guys' comments in the live chat. So, Ace said, discussion topics, I want you to not spoil the comics, please. And then he said, I haven't read any series. So, what I would say when it comes to these comic book reviews, I kind of skim over the plot. I don't go deep into details. So, certain like character moments and like cool dialogue moments and stuff like that will be missed if you don't actually read the comic. So the reviews themselves do go over plot points, but I don't think they're super spoiler heavy. Also, I always create posts on the channel, like in the community tab that says, hey, this is the comic that I'm going to read today, and here's the Amazon affiliate link if you guys want to pick it up and read it ahead of time before the review. Also, if you want to skip all the plot point parts, all you have to do is skip to where I talk about my recommendation at the very end of the video, where I recommend the book to, like, if you like this or that, then you might like this or that kind of thing. So those are your best bets for avoiding spoilers, would be to read the books ahead of time before looking at the videos that are about the books. That's my best tip for that. Let's see. Godzilla said supernatural. And then you said, what about people who are fans of Man Thing? I mean, Man Thing and Swamp Thing, I believe, are fairly similar characters, though I can't really say much about Man Thing because I've never really read anything about Man Thing. But if you like the design of Man Thing, I imagine you'll definitely enjoy this book because I think their designs are fairly similar. Let's see. Godzilla said King Shark is awesome. He said, you just reminded me of King Shark. King Shark is awesome. I agree. Ace said, would you like to see Spider-Man have a different superpower, such as Swamp Thing's symbiote stuff? And then he said, Spider-Man would become Swamp Thing. Well, for one, Swamp Thing isn't a symbiote, would be my first thing. And my second thing is that Swamp Thing is DC and Spider-Man is Marvel. So, very, very different things. Ace said Spider Man could also become Venom and switch between that and a Batman style Venom symbiote. You're doing a lot of like universe mixing with a lot of these ideas that you're throwing out. Ace said he uses the symbiote and the Batman armor slash skin morphs around his civilian clothes. Um, some of what you're talking about kind of reminds me of Spawn a little bit. Spawn's like a symbiote who also uses like weapons and stuff like that. You might be interested in Spawn. Let's see. Uh, then Ace said, but something that isn't a symbiote could become a symbiote. I, you're throwing me. It sounds like you have a lot of ideas, but they seem a little all over the place. Godzilla said, I don't know about that. And then Ace said, well, also, I'm going to have to end the stream soon. I actually have another stream that I'm going to be doing right after this, where I'm going to be talking about a game called Super Mash. So if you guys would like to check out that stream, make sure you stay tuned. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding, 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 ring the notification bell to be notified whenever we do these live streams. It's your friend, your boy, Jet Black the One Only, logging out. Stay tuned. I got another video coming up right after this. Peace. Check it again.